D&D number 13, For Unto Us, in Jesus' name, chapter 14. December 11th, Wednesday afternoon, Kino Estate, Crystal Cove, California. Jeffy had been sitting in the living room, nursing Elijah and talking to God at the same time. She looked up when her father came in the front door. He shook out the umbrella, closed it, and placed it in the holder in the corner behind the door. He smiled at her. It's pouring out there. Hey, Daddy, she said softly. He smiled at what used to be his youngest child. Hello, baby girl. He took off his thick sweater and placed it on the banister of the staircase. He got the impression that his sweet daughter needed to talk. So he came in and sat next to her on the sofa and nodded at her. I'll take him, he said. Jeffy handed the 1-month-old baby to her father. Eric placed him against his chest and patted his back to burp him. So how are you feeling, sweetheart? Eric asked. I mean, postpartum. Jeffy nodded with a smile. I feel almost back to normal, strong, energized. Are you getting enough to eat? Because you're looking a little slim. Well, I eat like a horse. I just need to get back to working out. Are you feeling a little left out because of the attention I've had to give the little ones? Of course not, Daddy. I understand, but it's nice every once in a while to just sit next to you and talk for a minute. Well, this time 3 years ago, you were in Africa, and I couldn't wait for you to be able to come home and sit and talk to me. She smiled. I still remember the longing I had to be near you. It seems like forever ago. Yes, 'cause since then a whole lot has happened, he said. Especially this year. Can you believe everything that's happened this year? Well, it really did happen. There are millions of people witnessing about it, and here I am, alive, sitting here, talking to you. She nodded. So much has happened, and the year isn't even over. He looked at his daughter. She was so beautiful. Her turned-up nose, her big brown eyes, her long, slightly curly, very dark brown hair. People say she looked like a Polynesian princess, and she did. Her face glowed with the light of Jesus, and her heart was filled with compassion. So, do you have anything to report? Any premonitions that need to be addressed? She pressed her lips together. Well, maybe a few. Those 2 little kids that Ricky and Bree have taken a liking to, they have some pretty dark energy surrounding them. But you don't have to be psychic to see that. Reverend Clark is filled with a bright light, but he feels a lot of guilt. Young Eric's movie is going to be record-breaking. I think he and Jordan are going to have some smooth sailing for a while. Well, good, Eric answered. She sighed. I feel like Taylor is still in danger. Eric frowned. Gabe says he sees her being hit in the face by a man's fist, and she's lying in the street, her eyes open. Is that what you see? Jeffy shook her head. No. I see her hurt. Her face bleeding. She's crying. How about Gabe? Is he around? I'm not sure, but Dad, what Gabe saw, he thought she was dead. I see something different. So maybe that's because he saw it and they're taking action and keeping her protected, and maybe that has changed the outcome. I mean, God gives us these visions sometimes as a warning, right? So that means we can change the outcome. Eric nodded. Yes. We need to pray extensively on this and get some answers. Yes, sir. And there's one more thing I see. It's a recent thing, but I'm afraid to say it out loud. Tell me. I think Bree is sick. Any other information? Not yet. Was this a dream or a vision? No, it's just a feeling. He nodded. Okay. Well, let's don't say anything yet. If you get any more impressions, let me know, and I might ask Rick if she's been to the doctor lately. She nodded. You know, Dad, after all the things we've been through, especially when you and Mom were taken, and then when what you and Gabe went through this year, and then Jesus actually healing people, using me, I feel like all of those hard things made me so much stronger. I feel almost powerful. I'm reading people so much easier and remotely, from far away, especially when it has to do with Gabe. Well, you told me that you felt God asked you to take care of Gabe, to keep him healthy and safe. She nodded. Yes. When I held the Tanner's new twins that day, God's presence was so strong. And that's when Jesus healed Gabe from the bruising on his chest, right there in front of everyone's eyes. And I was told I'm supposed to watch after Gabe. But I wish we knew God's plan so we could make sense of what we're doing. Well, that wouldn't require any faith, would it? I think we're on a need-to-know basis. Jeffy nodded. Yeah, you're right. Oh, Daddy, she sighed, I'm so glad and grateful that I have this opportunity to sit with you and speak with you and learn from you. 4 months ago, I was devastated when I thought I'd lost you. Now I'm so grateful, so grateful. He smiled at her. Me too, sweetheart. I love you, Juneflower. He took Eli down off his shoulder and looked into his sweet face. I remember when you were this little, and now here you are, grown up with your own husband and have created this precious new little human. How cool is that? It's so cool, Daddy. And I love Elijah so much, which is making me realize how much you must love us. There is so much ugliness and horror in this world, so much evil. But then I look at this special little boy and I realize that the power of good and light is so much stronger than the evil. I pray that we're able to continue to battle it and win. Well, remember, we know who wins in the end. She smiled. Cam has gone on a mission? Eric asked. Yes, sir. He said he'll only be away 2 days. He'll be back in time for young Eric's premiere. Well, good. We have a very busy weekend. The red carpet for Eric and the after party. Eric's 21st birthday on Saturday, as well as Taylor has a Christmas dance at school that she has to perform at. Oh, and Saturday morning, Rick and Mark and young Eric and JoJo and Logan are going to give a little martial arts demo class at the apartments next to the church. And then Sunday is the big church service that will be live streamed and put Ronnie back in business. Jeffy nodded with a smile. It is a busy weekend, but we'll make it through. She wanted to broach a subject with her father, but wanted to tread softly. So, the tree decorating party last night was a huge success, huh? Eric nodded. It was indeed. Thank goodness it didn't rain last night like it is right now. But really, I think Ricky was following the spirit when he made the impromptu invitation. The kids, even the teens, seemed to have a really good time. And Logan, thinking of the drums, that too was inspired. Jeffy nodded. Have you been on any of the social media sites today? He shook his head. I really don't have time for that nonsense unless it's Gabe or one of us being affected. She sighed. Well, we're being affected. Well, what's going on? There's this fundamentalist Christian group who has decided to call us out. Actually, more like call you out. Eric pressed his lips together. Christians coming against each other. It's so sad, and I'm sure Jesus is not very happy about it. What exactly are they accusing me of? Well, they're referring to the tree decorating last night. They say that you are leading Christians astray because Christmas trees are pagan. They are saying that our family is a bunch of false teachers leading the flock astray and that we will burn in hell. They say that we have earned millions of dollars from our followers and that we do everything for the money. Wow, that couldn't be further from the truth, Eric whispered sadly. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't want to burden you with this, but it hurts me deeply for them to sully your name, our name. Eric looked at his daughter and he nodded his head. You know, I normally wouldn't care what they say or give any energy to it or credence to it, but if it hurts you deeply, I must stand up and do something about it. What do you mean, if it hurts me, you have to do something about it? Well, I protect my family, right? I will protect you. I'll take care of it. Well, what will you do? Well, first and foremost, I'll pray about it and ask God what lessons he'd like me to teach and how he'd like me to go about teaching that lesson. Whatever he places in my head, that's what I'll do. And you too, sweetheart. You pray too, and if you get anything, any dreams or visions or messages, you let me know. Jeffy nodded. Daddy, are you okay? Yes, of course I am. Are you upset? No, not at all. There's a reason for everything, sweetie. It's just another battle to face. I have my armor on, do you? She smiled. I think my emotions are a little too involved. Well, you are a new mother, breastfeeding and probably a little tired. You have a bit of the postpartum hormones working on you. It's okay, baby girl. Satan is a liar, and he loves to stir up trouble. I will snuff this little flame out before it can get big. Jeffy sighed and smiled. Already she felt so much better. Her father was so strong, and she had every confidence that he would listen to God and he would take care of the little matter in a perfect way. She could tell because he wasn't angry. He wasn't going off the rails. He simply took it in stride and added it to his list of things to do for God. Her phone buzzed and she picked it up. She smiled at the pictures she'd just been sent, then turned the phone so her father could see. Aren't they beautiful? Eric studied the picture. It was Bree and Taylor and Jordan at their fitting for their red carpet dresses. Bree wore a sparkly dark blue floor-length dress with see-through sleeves. Beside her, Taylor wore a bright fuchsia-colored pink dress that came to mid-thigh. It hugged her tiny waist and had small cap sleeves. And beside her was Jordan in a stunning red high-low dress with lace bodice and tulle skirt. The front came to just below her knee, while the back touched the floor. All three were breathtaking. Eric nodded. Well, that's quite a treat for the eyes. He smiled at Jeffy. Do you already have your dress? She nodded. Yes, it's classic black velvet, floor length, no big deal. You, my daughter, are always a big deal. She smiled. Aw, thank you, Daddy. Daddy! The children screamed as they came into the living room after eating their lunch. They ran to him, and he quickly handed Eli off to his mother so he could spend some quality time with his children. They climbed up on him, and he hugged them, and Shelley followed. Hi, hon, she said softly. Hey, my Shelley girl, he said. Are you okay? She nodded. Yes, I'm just a little tired. I guess Melody helps more than I realized because I sure miss her. Mom, what dress are you wearing on Friday? Jeffy asked. She smiled. The shiny gold one with the flowy full skirt. Last time I wore it was maybe 3 years ago, so no one will remember. You didn't want something new? Eric asked. She shrugged. This isn't about me. It's about young Eric, and I don't need a new dress. She smiled. And Melody is going to wear the white one with lace sleeves. Eric smiled. His wife was so young, slim, and beautiful. He was a lucky man to be able to walk beside her. Jeffy watched her father as he smiled at her mother. The love light in his eyes made her feel so happy. Dad, does all this talk about dresses bore you? Do I seem bored? No, I was just wondering. Most men are not very interested in what dress a woman is wearing. Well, we may not be interested in the selection process, but we're very interested in the final result, he said with a twinkle in his eye. Jeffy, Shelley said, did I ever tell you that one of the first gifts your father ever bought me was a fancy dress? No, tell me about it. Well, we were at my very first tournament after we met. It was in Daytona. We were going to a fancy restaurant to meet with some potential sponsors, and I was nervous about it. And your dad offered to take me shopping for a new dress. I think probably to distract me from my nerves. Eric smiled. It took her all of 15 minutes to choose a dress because, as you know, she hates to shop. What did it look like? Eric sighed. It was beige or cream-colored floor-length dress with sparkles, and she looked so beautiful in it. It was backless, and she didn't wear a bra. Shelley's mouth dropped open. Of all things, you remember that? He shrugged. Well, I am a man. Jeffy giggled. Do you still have it? Shelley frowned. No. It was destroyed by James Crane. When he broke into your house that Christmas? Eric nodded. Let's don't talk about that in front of the kiddos. Hey, boys and girls, it's nap time. Who wants to help me read the new book that Uncle Keegan wrote? I do, they all chanted, except for Nate. Eric stood, lifting the 2 kids who'd been on his lap with him. He set them on the floor. Okay, then, let's head upstairs. Did everyone tell Mommy thank you for the good lunch? Thank you, Mommy, Angelina said quickly. I already did, Nate said. Me too, but I said it again, Angelina defended. They continued arguing as they all scurried upstairs to hear a story and take a nap. Shelley smiled at Jeffy. Give me my grandbaby. Jeffy handed her the baby. Mom, does it still bother you to talk about what that man did to you? Shelley shook her head. Not really. Why? Jeffy sighed. Sometimes I dream about his brother pulling me away from you and throwing me into his truck when I was 7. Or about him cutting my arm open. She ran her hand over the thin white scar. And that makes me think about Beth. It will be so awesome to see her again. Shelley nuzzled Eli's soft cheek before she looked up at her daughter and nodded. I miss her too. And I'm going to hug her so hard. But, sweetie, if you're struggling with these things, I think you should tell your dad. I'm not really struggling, just sometimes I dream about it. Well, think of it this way, sweetie pie. The enemy tried to get you again and again, and they failed. They didn't win. And here you are, a wife and mother and doctor who's working miracles. Thank God they didn't win. Jeffy nodded. Thank God. New scene. It is December 11th, 6 p.m., Wednesday evening. The Palma home, Huntington Beach, California. Benoy, there you are, Christina Palma said jovially as she opened the front door for him. He smiled warmly. Hello, Mrs. Palma. It's nice to see you. You seem to be in a happy mood. Well, of course I am. I went down to the church this morning and it just looks so wonderful. Isn't it exciting? Banny smiled and nodded. It's really exciting. Well, come in, come in. Dinner's almost ready. Bristol's in the kitchen. We're always so glad when you come by and join us for dinner. Well, it smells really good. Oh, it's just the normal rice, this time with some seared pork and veggies. Always good. I'm just going to go sit down and rest for a bit. You can go join Bristol in the kitchen. Banny turned and headed toward the kitchen. Bristol took a deep breath and put a smile on her face, praying that she would remember everything Mr. Adams told her. Tell him about the new job and how excited she is about it. When he asks if she's spoken to Melody today, tell him she has not because Melody is sick. And ask him why he asks. She drew a deep breath. Hello, Bebot, he said. Bristol smiled. Hey, Banny, are you hungry? Sure, so how you doing today? Great. Guess what? I have some news. His eyes narrowed. What is it? I got a new job today. He nodded. Really? Why? Grandmaster Kino called me into the church office and offered to pay for my schooling to become an accountant, and in exchange, I will work at the church secretary, as the church secretary. Isn't it wonderful? You gonna work for free? Oh, no, they're gonna pay me. He frowned. So how does Grandmaster Kino have the authority to hire you to work at the church? I mean, wouldn't that fall under Reverend Clark? Well, yes, but he's helping Reverend Clark get all set up and organized. Reverend Clark was also at the meeting. Banny frowned. So, what will you have to do at the church? What will you be authorized to take care of? She smiled sweetly. Well, pretty much everything. I'll answer the phones, I'll change the sign out front, pay all the bills, make all the deposits from tithes and donations. Really? I mean, that sounds like a lot. Well, at first it will be because everything is such a mess. Well, maybe I can come in and help you get things set up and organized. Oh, that's sweet. But why would you do that? He shrugged. You're my girl. I have some free time. I'd be happy to help. Awesome. He put his arms around her and pulled her close. You haven't even given me a kiss today. She swallowed hard and had to actually fight back the tears that threatened. She allowed the kiss and then rushed to check the simmering veggies. He watched her. So, how's your friend? My friend? Which one? The one at the church last night. Oh, Melody? Yeah. Bristol shrugged casually. Why do you ask? Well, her boyfriend said she was running a fever. Oh, yeah, well, I guess she's okay. I mean, I haven't spoken to her today, and she didn't come by the church when I was there. I guess I should give her a call and make sure she's okay. That guy, he's pretty arrogant. You mean Logan? Yeah, he thinks he's something big. He said they wouldn't need me to help look after things and lock up anymore. I don't know where he gets off. Bristol swallowed. Well, I guess since they're investing so much money into the place, they have a say in how the place is run. I know Reverend Clark is very happy about their help. I am too. Aren't you?" Sure, he mumbled. "So when do you start your new job?" "Well, I thought I was going to have to work out a notice at Eglin, but once I told them I'd be leaving, they wanted me to leave immediately. They don't want anyone trying to sabotage them or steal their clients." She shook her head. "Grandmaster Kino says that is a terrible way to run a business." "What do you mean?" "Well, like all paranoid and stuff. He says it's negative energy." "He's all high and mighty, too. I guess he's never had anyone steal from him." She shrugged. "Guess not. I wouldn't know. I don't have that criminal mindset." He moved close. "What is that supposed to mean?" Her eyes opened wide as she realized what she said. I just mean it would never occur to me to steal clients or sabotage Eglin before I leave. What a silly thought, don't you think?" He nodded. She smiled nervously. "Well, dinner is ready. Go sit down and I'll bring it to the table." He nodded and went to sit in the dining room with Mrs. Palma. Bristol blew out a breath of relief. She felt like running to the bathroom and puking up her guts. She had to take several deep breaths. She held her hands out in front of her and had to concentrate to make them stop shaking. In a car nearby, Agent Brown shook his head as he watched the video screen. He called his boss. Division Chief Jeff Davis picked up. "What you got, Agent Brown?" "This poor girl is about to fall apart. I don't think she'll be able to hold it together for too many days. We're going to have to work fast." "Okay. I'll work out the details with Deputy Director Adams tonight and hopefully have things in place by tomorrow. Has Mrs. Palma spoken about the safe yet?" "Not yet. They're just sitting down to dinner." "Okay. Let me know how that goes." "Yes, sir. Watch Bristol on the video, sir. She's not going to last." "Understood. Keep up the good work, Agent Brown." "Yes, sir." His eyes went back to monitor the situation. As the Palmas and Benoit Cruz ate dinner, the small talk mostly revolved around doing some Christmas shopping and how much Bristol's life was about to change with going to school next semester and her new job. But finally, Mrs. Palma came in with what she needed to say. "Oh, Banny," she said brightly, "I almost forgot to ask you. Do you have any friends you could recruit to help move something for me?" "What do you need moved? I can probably do it myself." "Oh, no, not this. It's very heavy. It took my husband and 3 friends to get it up to the attic all those years ago." "The attic? What is it?" he asked again. "It's a safe. It's way in the back corner of the attic." "A safe? Well, why would he move a heavy safe up to the attic?" "Well, to keep it safe, of course," she said with a giggle. Banny forced a smile at her little pun. "Then why move it now?" "Well, I'm getting too old to go up into the attic. I need it where I can get my hands on it easily, and I was hoping to get you to move it into my bedroom or possibly into the den." "Does it have anything in it?" "Oh, my, yes. It has some old jewelry, but that's probably not worth too much, but it does have cash. My husband didn't trust banks, and he put all of his savings in that safe. I've only been into it a few times in the 20 years or so he passed. Once when we bought the new kitchen appliances, and once when we got Bristol that computer." "Well, if you had money stashed away, why didn't you use it to pay for Bristol to go to college?" he asked. "Well, dear, you see, I promised my Ethan that I would save it to give to Bristol when I passed. I didn't want to spend it and then have nothing for her." He shook his head. "How much cash do you have in the safe?" She shrugged. "Well, I haven't counted it, but somewhere around $200,000, she smiled. "Now, don't go telling anyone that I have that much cash in my house or someone will rob us for sure." "Oh, I won't say a word," he promised. Bristol thought her heart was going to give out. It was beating so hard. She shook her head and took a drink from her water glass. "How heavy is it? Are you sure I can't move it on my own?" "Oh, I'm sure. It's almost 600 pounds. Do you have at least 3 or 4 friends who can come help you?" "I have 3 friends I know will come help. We'll have to get it done with just the 4 of us." "Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much." "You're welcome. Anything to help you, Mrs. Palma. After all, you're the grandmother of the girl I just might end up marrying one day." Bristol gasped. Banny smiled at her. "Oh, come on now, Bristol. That can't come as too much of a surprise to you." Bristol smiled and blushed. No, it's just that you've never actually said the words out loud. He smiled. Well, things are changing. Hey, why don't you come for a walk with me after dinner? A walk? It's raining. He nodded. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Well, let's you and me make some time soon. She nodded. He smiled at her. He was thinking he needed to get her alone, claim her as his own by consummating their relationship. And then with her old-fashioned beliefs, there will be no way out for her. She'll have to marry him, especially if he can get her pregnant. Still, he needed to have a private word with her tonight. Mrs. Palmer, thank you so much for having me over for dinner. It was delicious. Oh, you're welcome. Bristol did most of the cooking. He smiled at her. That's my girl. Tell you what, I'll do the dishes for you. Nonsense, Bristol said. I insist. At least let me help you. Mrs. Palmer, you just relax. He stood and started clearing dishes, and once he and Bristol were in the kitchen together, he chatted with her at first about the food and then about Christmas, and then he cornered her. I want to talk to you about something important, he said softly to Bristol. She looked at him. Okay. What's wrong? You seem different. Different? Nervous or something? She put a hand to her head. I don't know. Maybe I'm coming down with whatever Melody has. And you haven't spoken to her all day? No. Why? She said something weird to me yesterday when I found her in the chapel. Bristol clenched her fists. Well, what did she say? Well, I saw her asleep on the bench in the chapel. I spoke to her, but she didn't wake up, so I touched her leg, and she jerked and sat up all scared and stuff. And I told her I didn't mean to scare her. I was just waking her up to tell her we were going to be locking up the church. And she acted all weird, acting like I was coming on to her. It was kind of insulting, you know. And I guess I said something rude to her. What did you say? I told her, no offense, but compared to you, she just wasn't my type of girl, and she thought way too much about herself to think that I was making a pass at her. I mean, why would I do that when I have you, right? Bristol smiled and nodded. I just wanted to tell you about it in case she comes running to you to tell you I came on to her, because I would never do that. Bristol nodded. I believe you. He took her hand and pressed her against the refrigerator and kissed her. Agent Brown watched from his car, ready to run inside the house if necessary. His heart hurt for the young girl. They were going to have to work very fast, because she couldn't hold out much longer. New scene. It is still December 11th, Wednesday evening. Looks like a phone call from the Tanner home to the Kino estate. Eric glanced at his phone before he answered it. Well, hello there, Gabriel Tanner, young sir. Hey, Grandmaster Kino, Gabe said. I hope you're doing well, sir. I am. Why? Did you have another vision? Oh, no, sir. Sir, there's some stuff going on, on social media. Are you talking about the fundamentalist group that says I am a false teacher? Yes, sir. Well, please don't let that kind of stuff bother you, Gabe. The enemy is not going to simply allow us to go unhindered. Right, sir, but I would like to ask you to help me, or I guess for me to help you fight this battle, because what affects your family affects me. Okay, it sounds like you have some sort of battle plan. Well, yes, sir. I didn't really put it together. Isla did. She is friends with Cedric May, who has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He has millions of viewers. She was simply having a conversation about the fact that the fundamentalist group is the one speaking lies. She told him you guys have never made any money whatsoever off of speaking about our Christian beliefs. He asked her what your thoughts are on the Christmas tree thing, and she suggested that he ask you himself. He thought that would be a wonderful idea and wanted to see if you would consider coming on his podcast and allow him to interview you. So why did she call you instead of call me herself? Well, she wanted to get advice from me as to how to approach you, and I told her I would simply call you myself. And if you were interested, I would tell her to give you a call, or even better, have Cedric give you a call. Do you listen to his podcast? Eric asked. I have a few times. I don't have a lot of time, but the few times I've heard it, he seems to have integrity and manners and is fair with his guests. I've heard of Cedric May, Eric T. said. He does seem to interview a lot of controversial subjects. Yes, sir, he does, but I didn't think that would be any problem for you. No, it won't be. That sounds like a yes, Gabe said. Well, Jeffy and I spoke about this earlier today. I told her I would do something to push back. This podcast may be just what God had in mind. Give me time to pray on this, and I'll get back to Isla. Shoot me her phone number so I can just get it from Bree. Or I can just get it from Bree. I'll send it to you. Where is the podcast held? Phoenix, Arizona. Well, that's doable. I'll get back to you soon, Gabe. Looking forward to it. New scene. It is December 12th, Thursday afternoon, Hopewood Chapel Church of Christ, Huntington Beach, California. Bristol Palma wiped at her tears. Ronnie offered her a box of tissues. She pulled out 3 of them. Thank you, she whispered. It's all going to work out, young lady, Ronnie said. Don't be afraid. God is watching over you. She gave a soft smile. Everyone always says that, but really, how do you know? Well, let's just think about it a moment. I prayed very hard for God to show me how I can keep this church going. He put it in my mind very clearly that we needed young people. Invite the young people. The words were loud. Invite the young people. So that's what I asked you all to do. I stood at the pulpit and asked you to invite all the young people you could invite. And what happened? She shrugged. It was through you, Bristol, that miracles began to happen. Through you. Do you not think that God knew that would happen? Bristol's look of confusion prompted Ronnie to continue all the way. Bristol, God knew that you would invite Melody. He knew that Melody would invite Logan, and he knew that Logan would get his very powerful family involved. God knows the Kinos and Adams, yes, but he also knows you. He was and is aware of you, Bristol. He sees you. You are important to him. You are a part of the miracle that is taking place. God even prompted Grandmaster Kino to see you as the answer to helping me run this church. Do you think God would let anything happen to you? The enemy has been right next to you these past 6 months. God has shone a light on him so that we can see him for what he is. He's not going to let him hurt you. You are protected. Bristol looked up into the kind, old eyes of her pastor and then turned and looked into the warm, loving eyes of Grandmaster Kino. Eric smiled and nodded at her. He is absolutely right, Bristol. You are protected, and so is your grandmother. We are not going to let anything happen to either of you, nor to any other member of this congregation. Outside this room right now is an agent who is dedicated to your safety. With your grandmother right now is another agent, pretending to be prepping the interior of your home to be painted. These agents are very skilled, and they will not let anything happen to you. And just look at what you've already done here, Eric continued as he looked around the office. It's like night and day, what you've already accomplished in one morning. She sniffed and smiled through the tears. Well, I told you it wouldn't take much to get everything organized and set up. Now, Reverend Clark just needs to tell me what he needs to accomplish each day, and I can get us down to a routine where I won't be underfoot when he wants to be here in the office. Eric smiled. Well, Ronnie won't need to be here in the office anymore. This office is yours to run however you see fit. We are turning the classroom next door into a very nice space for Ronnie to come, study, pray, read, relax, and just pastor his flock. Oh, that would be wonderful, Bristol said. Eric nodded. They've just thought of everything, haven't they? Ronnie asked. And they have a study set up in my home with internet and computer and church phone lines so that I can accomplish things over there too. Bristol smiled. And so now all we have to do is catch Benny and his friends. And that is going to happen, Bristol, Eric said. Trust me. More importantly, trust God. He's got this, and he's got you. They all looked up at the knock on the door. Logan poked his head in. Hey everyone. I just wanted to say that I just got here and the piano and organ are going to be arriving any minute. And I have some music major guys with me I brought from school. And we're going to do a little sound check soon to make sure everything is ready for Sunday. Well, now, this is exciting, Ronnie said. Logan smiled. Yes, it is. So, where is everybody? Eric smiled. Melody and your grandmother and the kids are downstairs working on either cleaning, painting, decorating classrooms, or finishing touches on the kitchen and community room with everyone else. Cool. So, who is everyone else? Well, Mrs. Brooks and your mom and two Aunt Bees and their kiddos and Jeff Davis and Justin and Lori. And then up here just down the hall are Jeffy and Eli and Mickey and Scarlett. They're looking into turning a room into a nursery-type area with monitors that feed from the chapel so that new mothers can nurse their babies and still hear the sermon. Oh, awesome. Well, if you guys get a chance, come into the chapel and meet my friends. They've been working hard to make this Sunday a spectacle. We'll be out in just a moment. Logan grinned. Okay, thanks. New scene. It is still December 12th, 5:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday. Tanner home, Pine Forest, Georgia. Lily peeked into her parents' bedroom at the sound of her brother's voice. Gabe lay on his stomach on the bed with two little babies wrapped in blankets in front of him. She stood there listening. So that means today you are 2 weeks and 2 days old. What do you think so far? Earth life is a trip, huh? But don't worry, I promise you that your mom and dad and your sisters are going to take really good care of you. I want to do that too, but I'm going to have to leave for a while. In about 3 weeks. I'm really going to miss you, but I got stuff I have to do. But I'll come back as often as I can to see you because you two, you are special. I feel your spirits so strong. He touched each of his index fingers to the hand of each infant, and they immediately closed their tiny fists around his fingers. See that? We have a connection, don't we? And you have a connection to God right now that is so strong. He stopped when the baby seemed to squeeze his fingers harder, and his eyes moistened. I wish that I could marry Taylor and bring her back here to live, and we could be near you every day. And Taylor and I could have babies, and you'll be their aunt and uncle. I hadn't thought about that. But you will be a very young aunt and uncle to someone. Probably lots of someones, since your older sisters are probably going to get married and have babies soon. And that means that I'll be an uncle. Wow. That's going to be so cool. Anyway, just promise me, my little precious Gentian and Issa, that you'll stay close to God. If you do that, I won't have to worry about you at all. Issa, Lily said from the doorway. Gabe turned to look at his sister with a smile. It just slipped out. It's not bad as nicknames go. Isaiah, Issa. Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of cute. She came in and sat on the side of the bed. You know, little brother, I feel about you the way you feel about them. I mean, you have a connection to God that is so strong. And as long as you stay close to God, I won't worry about you a bit. But I wish you didn't have to leave because I'm going to miss you. And I, too, wish you and Taylor would move here and have babies, and I'll be their favorite aunt. Gabe grinned. Well, why will you be their favorite aunt? She shrugged. Or the other aunts will be married and have their own lives, but I'll have plenty of time for my nieces and nephews. Plus, I cook. Baking cookies with Aunt Lily. Doesn't that sound awesome? Gabe frowned. Yes. Baking cookies with Aunt Lily sounds great, but Aunt Lily is going to be busy baking cookies for her own family. She sighed. Am I? Gabe rose from the bed, picked up Gentian, kissed her cheek, and placed her carefully in her bassinet. I know I don't have to tell you that God's timing is perfect, he said, raising his eyebrows at Lily. She frowned and shrugged. I'm getting the feeling that maybe I'll walk a different path than everyone else. Gabe scooped up Isaiah and nuzzled his cheek and placed him in his own bassinet and turned to Lily. You will, because you have your own path to walk, and each of us has a different path. And you're a chef, but that's not all you are. Like, I'm a warrior, but that's not all I am. I'm already working with kids and ministering, actually, and I'm going to be learning about a lot of other things. And should I put myself into a box and only do one thing? No, and neither should you. Lily, you are a catch. You have to know that. Look, I know you're my sister and all, but I know how guys see you, a hot blonde who can cook. You will not go through this life alone or just as somebody's aunt. So whatever funk you're in, get out of it, because I don't like it one bit. You're listening to the enemy, and he's a liar. Don't get discouraged. Please, Lily. She sighed as she looked up into the impassioned face of her not-so-little brother, then smiled and touched the bit of hair that fell onto his forehead. You are so cute when you get all intense. He rolled his eyes. I just love you so much, Gabriel. I'm sure going to miss you. He sighed. Me too. I'm going to miss you. She giggled. Come on. I was sent up here to tell you that dinner is ready. New scene. It is still December 12th. It's 7 p.m. Thursday evening. The Keith home, Huntington Beach, California. Melody and Logan sat in the enclosed sunroom in the back part of the Keith's house. They wanted some alone time. Logan had been invited to dinner, which he thoroughly enjoyed, and now he wanted to spend a little time with his girl before he headed home. Are you tired? Melody asked. Well, a little. It's been a busy day. I had back-to-back classes this morning. Then the piano and organ arrived at the church, and you know everything after that. Yes, and Logan, the sound check/concert was amazing. Sunday is going to be so good. He nodded. I'm excited about it. I can tell you are. I can tell you are in your element. I love how enthusiastic you are about music. He sighed. It's just that I can feel it, you know. I can feel it so deep in my heart, and when I feel it like that, it's as if I'm standing in the presence of Jesus. He moved his hand out in front of him. It's like he's right here, right in front of me, smiling and listening. And it seems like everyone who's listening or singing together at that moment, it's like they're all in his presence. And I know he's touching them, touching their hearts, letting them know that he's real. He's real, Mel. He's shown himself so many times. I want to share this feeling with the world. I want to share it with my family. I want a wife and children to share it with. I want them to feel it every bit as strongly as I do. Well, when you're singing, Logan, or playing, I do feel it. I guess that's why I can't get enough of you singing and always asking you to sing to me. And that's another thing, Logan said. When I'm singing and I look into your eyes, the love that I feel, the emotion that wells up, I could drown in that. She smiled and leaned against his shoulder. So, tell me, when did you first realize that you liked to sing? Like, when you were little, did you sing a lot? He shook his head. No. When I was little, there was nothing to sing about. Life was a nightmare, though I have to say my mother tried her very best to shield me. And when my bio father wasn't around, she played with me and spent time with me and made me laugh. Though sometimes it was hard to laugh when I could see the bruises on her arms or the swollen eyes or a cut on her lip. He looked up. Whoa, that took a dive, didn't it? When did I start singing? Well, after my mom and dad got married. Do you mean your real dad? I mean the man I know as Master Mark. That's who I'm talking about. He's your real dad. Logan smiled. Yeah, you're right. So after they got married, I was spending a lot of time with my brothers, and they asked me about the music I listened to. I told them just the regular stuff, and they asked me if I really liked it. And I said I liked the music, but not the words, because, you know, most popular songs nowadays have some pretty ugly stuff in it. And if it's not ugly stuff about deviant sex or violence, then it's shallow or superficial. So they turned me on to Christian music, and it changed my life. I started learning and studying all Christian music, from the very old composers to hymns to gospel to popular Christian. I started having my own feelings and opinions as I started learning about Jesus and what it means to know him. So before your mom and dad got together, you weren't like religious? He shook his head. No, I didn't really know anything about God. I did know that there was something beyond our earthly lives because of an experience my brothers and I, had up in the canyon one Saturday. What happened? Well, we were up in the canyon riding bikes. How old were you? I was 11. We went up with young Eric's family. Us three guys went up to the edge of a cliff, and young Eric and JoJo talked about how they do these prayer meditation things where they talk to God, and they said they'd never tell anyone else about it, but they felt I was one of them. So young Eric led us in this prayer, and we sat quietly listening, and it was like we could see or hear or maybe feel the presence of family members who'd passed. Young Eric saw his great-grandfather, Grandmaster Kino's dad, and he saw his grandmother, whom he'd never met, Uncle Ricky's mom. Oh, wow. Right? And JoJo saw his own mother, who died right after he was born. And I saw my grandparents, my mom's parents, who died in a car accident when I was a baby. The weird thing is, even though I'd never met them, I knew who they were. I mean, I guess it was because I'd seen pictures of them, but they were older in the pictures, and yet I saw them as a young couple. But anyway, the three of us brothers, we felt so close to God at that time. We always talked about that feeling and how much we wanted to feel that again. And did you? Well, lots of times now, but it took a while, and it was the music that did it for me. Remember I said that I didn't like the words to the songs? So Eric dared me to write my own words to the songs, and I found I had a knack for it. And then JoJo challenged me to, instead of writing new words to already written music, write new music to go with the words. And the very first time I played a song I'd written for the guys, they went crazy. They cried. They said I had to pursue this course, and I felt it too. They were touched by the words and music, and so was I. And finally, I felt that feeling like we'd felt at the canyon. We got together and made an album to sell, all proceeds to go to Aunt Jeffy's foundation. We couldn't produce it fast enough. We made thousands of dollars in a week. It was fun, lots of fun, and that made me know that I would pursue this course in my life. So young Eric and JoJo can sing too? Well, actually, they do sing, and they sing well. And young Eric can play the guitar, and JoJo can tear it up on the drums when he has two hands. Melody sighed. This is a beautiful story. I understand why you guys are so close. Logan smiled. What keeps us close is God, because they know I will always pursue my relationship with Jesus, and I know they will too, so we can help each other and support each other and even call each other out if we have to. Melody smiled. Your relationship with them is so special. It is. But my relationship with you is even more special. So, tell me, are you feeling all better? No more sickness? Yes, I don't know what was wrong with me Tuesday night, but the next morning I was fine, and today no problems at all. It's as if I was never sick. Well, maybe just some 12-hour bug. Maybe. Miss Jeffy says that I'm fine, so that's good enough for me, and you never got sick, right? He shook his head. Nope, I feel great. He pulled her off the sofa and into his lap and kissed her. And when he pulled away, he looked into her eyes and shook his head. I am so blessed to have you in my life. She smiled. Actually, it's the reverse. You are so amazing, but there's nothing special about me. Yeah, not too much, other than you are the most beautiful, the kindest, the sweetest girl I've ever known. You love God, you understand me, you are emotionally intelligent, good with children, wise, hardworking. I can't look at you without my heart skipping a beat. Melody, I realize we don't know each other completely. I want to know everything about you. What you like, what you don't like, what you get excited about, what are your dreams and desires. What's your favorite color? Do you like to read? Do you like sports? Do you want to get married and have a dozen children? Her eyes opened wide. Was that a proposal? He smiled. No. When I propose, you won't have to ask. It wouldn't be fair to propose to you right now, before you've seen me at my worst. But Melody, so far, so good. She giggled. How romantic. He laughed and shrugged. Just the fact that I didn't just piss you off is a really good sign. What do you mean? Another girl could be offended that I mentioned marriage and then said, no, that's not a proposal. Well, I don't offend very easily. I realize that. It's another thing I really love about you. Seriously, though, Logan, do you think I would fit into your lifestyle? What's my lifestyle? A college student? A wannabe singer? A minister? A celebrity? An amazing artist? A celeb? Not me. I know you say that, but when you cut your album, it's going to go viral. You're going to be very famous. And I'm just a plain girl, only a high school graduate. I'm actually the help, if you know what I mean. His face darkened. The help? Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding. That's actually what I am. I work for your grandparents. Mel, you are not the help. You are a member of the family. My grandparents trust you to help them with the most precious things they have, their children. They interviewed 1 million people. They were about to give up, but when they met you at the restaurant, God spoke to them and told them, this girl, she's the one. She's special. She's a part of the family. To me, that means you passed all the requirements, because the girl I fall in love with should be able to intelligently and lovingly take care of those children. And I'm in love with you, Mel, so in love with you, and you fit in just fine. You are perfect for me. So far. Okay, so far. We'll take it slow. Like I said, you haven't seen me at my worst. He looked at her closely. But wait. I think I see a flaw on you right now. What? He smiled and rubbed his thumb over her cheek. You have some paint right here on your cheek. Oh, she said as she reached up to her cheek. I'll get it, he said as he used his thumbnail to scrape the tiny dot of paint away. There. Flaw's gone. He kissed her again. So are you excited to walk the red carpet tomorrow? Maybe more like nervous. It's the world's first glance of you since you've become a big social media phenom. Yep, I guess that's right. And I'll be proud to have you on my arm. Or what if people say, who is that plain girl he's with? He shook his head. Where did you get the idea that you're plain? She shrugged and sighed. What color is your dress? Miss Shelley and I decided on a white one. It was classic and modest. My grandmother has good taste. Where did you go? Where did you two go to buy your dresses? She giggled. We went to her closet. Oh. When you told me Grandma helped you, I thought you went shopping. Well, I didn't want to spend the money. And Miss Shelley tried to get me to let her buy me a new dress. But when we were going through her closet to see what kind of dresses I like, we came upon the white one. And it fits me perfectly, and it's really pretty. So I thought, why buy a dress when I can wear this perfectly good one? He sighed. Okay. But from now on, I'll do better. What do you mean? I'll make sure you have a new dress for every event. I don't mind hand-me-downs. And I love that about you, Mel, but I can buy you a dress, any price. And Grandma could buy the whole store, so please don't go without. And you know what? I'm pretty surprised that Jordan, Aunt Bree, and Taylor didn't invite you to go with them to get a dress from the designers. Oh, they did. I told them I already had one. He sighed. I'm sorry. I should have been more thoughtful. He hit the side of his head. Stupid. Logan, stop. It's all good. Don't ruin this exciting time for your brother. I'm fine. I'm good. And when you see me in the dress, you'll see why I didn't want to go shopping. He drew a deep breath. Okay. But from here on out, I promise to be a lot more attentive and considerate of your needs. Logan Adams, you are not responsible for my shopping needs. At least not yet, she said with a grin. He chuckled. They sat silently for a few minutes, Logan still cuddling her on his lap. It was Logan who finally broke the silence. So, I saw you talking to Bristol today. How did that go? Melody sighed. I feel so bad for her, Logan. She's terrified. Banny went over to her house for dinner yesterday, and she had to pretend that she didn't know he had plans to murder her, and he kissed her a few times, and she said she almost threw up. I feel for her. I heard Dad and Uncle Joey talking, and they're speeding everything up because Agent Brown says she's barely holding it together. Well, good. Good that they're speeding it up. She told me that Banny asked her if she'd talk to me about anything and then went on to tell her that when he woke me up in the chapel on Tuesday that I got the wrong impression and acted all crazy like he was coming on to me, but he was completely innocent. Logan shook his head. Well, I'm surprised he's not smart enough to know that we put security cameras all over that church. Yeah, but I guess it's a good thing he doesn't know so that we can gather evidence on him. Anyway, today, Agent Brown told Bristol that Vanya will ask her again if she's spoken to me, and she's supposed to say yes, and that I told her that he tried to come on to me, and that she told me that I was misinterpreting the whole thing, and that way he'll think she's on his side. Logan nodded. Well, don't worry, Melody. Agent Brown won't let anything happen to Bristol or Christina. Melody smiled. Isn't it sweet that Mrs. Palma told you to call her by her first name? Logan smiled and shrugged. She likes me. Who doesn't? Melody said as she put her arms around his neck and kissed him. And that is the end of chapter 14.